when the narcissist meets somebody new, when they're in the beginning of a new relationship with somebody, whether it be a romantic relationship or maybe a boss subordinate type relationship where they're hiring somebody into the company, or even some other type of relationship. When the narcissist is in a new relationship with somebody in whatever capacity, and they're going to have this person, or they might have this person in their life going forwards, narcissists really test the person. They really want to size the person up. They really want to get to know the ins and outs of the person. They really want to know what makes the person tick. The narcissist, what they're really interested in is knowing what they can get away with when it comes to interacting with this person. How many lines they can cross, how many moral lines and lines of principle can they cross and get away with when it comes to this person. How much can they use this person to serve their agenda at the other person's expense? How can they use the person maybe to do them favors, or just to maybe massage their ego in some way or another? So the narcissist, they're really sizing up new people who come into their life to see how that person can serve them. Because the narcissist really is all about, when they look at people, they're thinking, how can that person serve me? They really don't have any other purpose for people. They don't really see people in any other light other than how can that person serve them personally, in a very egocentric manner. So that's why when the narcissist comes across somebody new in their life, they'll talk about lots of things. They'll create the opportunity to talk about lots of things. They'll say certain things that would deliberately rub up the average person maybe the wrong way. Somebody who has strong boundaries, maybe stiffen them up and maybe cause that person to either put their foot down or take a step back. They'll throw these types of comments to rub the person up, types of comments that would typically rub people up the wrong way, to see how these new people in their life react to it. They're testing them to see the level of tolerance that these people have towards the narcissist and the narcissist using and abusing ways and manners. So if it is like a boss subordinate type relationship, maybe the boss would tell the subordinate to, after they finish drafting a report, to book a meeting with them so that they can discuss it, so they can send it out to a client. But maybe the boss, they might, for example, express urgency in the work and just make sure that, the subordinate delivers their work, and that they need to have a meeting with the boss to have a catch-up before it goes out to the client. But the boss, in this kind of case, for example, they may have instilled the sense of urgency, but then when the person tries to catch the boss for a catch-up, sometimes the bosses will deliberately make themselves unavailable. And then the boss might be unresponsive, for example. So the subordinate is there knowing that, okay, they prepared this report, it needs to go out to a client. And they need to have a catch-up with their boss, their superior, to run through it before they send it out. But the boss is not available. And then the subordinate becomes very uncomfortable because they're stuck, because they feel that they need to get this work out, but they can't sign it off themselves. They need somebody to have that discussion first, to agree that the content's okay to go out. That's just an example of something that a narcissistic boss would apply in practice. Is they'll create these situations to really make the subordinate feel uncomfortable. And then the subordinate sometimes would be very apologetic. If the boss sees in that scenario, the subordinate is really anxious, nervous, even apologetic about something that they didn't do wrong. The boss is the one who kind of withheld their own presence, disappeared right when they were meant to be available. That's the kind of example of something where they might be testing the subordinate to see if the subordinate takes it on themselves, takes on their own responsibility, takes on the boss's fault as if it's their responsibility. And if the subordinate does that, then that's signaling to the boss, you can get away with anything with me. And then when the subordinate's taken on the boss's responsibility, which isn't right, but sometimes they do it because they feel bad and because they fear they might lose their job. By doing that, that's giving the boss rich supply because it's really reinforcing the strong power they have over the subordinate. It's really showing them that they own the subordinate, and that the subordinate is willing to sacrifice their well-being for the narcissistic boss unfairly. If you're looking at a new relationship, for example, the narcissist might test the potential new romantic partner on many fronts, and they'll be looking at the reaction of the person to get some insights into how, into how much they can get away with when it comes to that person. So maybe the narcissist might talk about how, in their past, all their exes were very possessive and didn't give them the freedom they needed, didn't let them go out on weekends, travel on their own, things like that. What the narcissist is really testing is, you know, is they want to know if they do enter into a romantic relationship with this person, given the response that this person is going to have to the comments the narcissist is making, is that suggestive of them, potentially willing to let the narcissist have all the freedom they want later? So the narcissist might throw in these comments about how their exes have all been possessive and didn't let them have the freedom they wanted. And if this potential romantic interest is supportive of that and is on the narcissist's side, that suggests to the narcissist that, okay, with this person, I don't have to be loyal because you're already giving me the space. Take that box. Let's try something else. Maybe the narcissist will start pushing against the boundaries of the person. Ask overly personal questions that are just completely inappropriate. And if the target feels they have to respond and have to give a satisfying response to the narcissist because maybe they want to be polite and they don't want to lose face, so they're gonna tell the narcissist what the narcissist wants to hear. Things like that are signs that the person doesn't have strong boundaries because they're allowing themselves to be stepped on because they don't want to lose face with the narcissist, because they don't want to upset the person by withholding a response, even if the question itself was inappropriate and crossing boundaries, and so on. So narcissists in many different contexts, whether it's work, a work setting, a romantic setting, family, friends, they're always testing people, especially new people who they don't know so well yet. They want to get a good idea of what they can get away with when it comes to you. And in particular, they want to know how they can use you to their advantage. Everything that relates to you, that regards you, they only see it from a very selfish perspective, a very egocentric perspective, which is how can you serve them? How can they use you to their advantage? Well, their mission is to find out. So what they do is they'll ask all kinds of questions. They'll assess your response, how you feel, your reaction to them. And that will give them lots of information that later they'll use in such a way where they can make the best of you in terms of how well you can serve them. So be very careful if there's somebody new in your life that's pushing up against your boundaries, that's putting you in awkward situations, that's making you feel defensive, making you feel apologetic, even though you don't really feel you did something wrong, but you feel you have to apologize. Anybody who instills those feelings in you, if you start seeing a pattern, back away, because they're probably not a very healthy person.